you get a feeling? I'm doing this 20 years. I've never had a feeling like this.
You're gonna see exactly what I see.
Which is what?
Greatness.
First of all, I was curious. I don't know if you mind me asking how old you are. I'm just wondering if I should be upset that I'm not writing scripts for, Ben Affleck at this point in my life.
No, I'm 30, so I'm older than I look. This is an R-rated movie. I probably would still get carded for it if I was just going to see it at a normal theater. So, but no, look, man, I've been at it for a while, so it's always a longer road, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fascinating that you're not only kind of turning, Michael Jordan into, winding back the clock into an underdog story. But you were an underdog at this journey. I listened to one of your previous interviews, and you were talking about working kind of a day job while you were struggling to get writing done. I'm curious, could you describe maybe the first moment you learned that Ben Affleck was interested, he became attached? Was there a phone call? How did that process work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the script was out there, and it already had a production company with Mandalay and Skydance. So, to make the movie happen and get financing, you needed a movie star, specifically for Sonny, but hopefully for other roles too. And then we needed a great director too. It's obviously it's a type of script that doesn't get made all the time anymore, right? It's just people in rooms talking mostly. It's there's not explosions or action or anything like that. So what that means is you need big movie stars that you can put on a poster to try and get people to come out to the theater. So we've gone out to kind of like the dream casting scenarios and sent the script to their agents. And I've been down this road a couple of times with a couple of my earlier scripts. You get calls like that from time to time that, this A-list actor is reading the script and is interested in doing it. It just so rarely happens. Usually that just goes away. Like, you don't even get a phone call saying they're not doing it. It's just you never hear one way or the other. So this one, I just got a call from the producers that said Ben and Greta and was interested in directing it and doing it. And then I got a call a couple of days later saying, like, you're meeting him on next week. Then we sat down, and the movie that's on the screen, he'd seen from day one. Like, he explained it almost as is. There were obviously stuff that was added along the way, especially after he met with Jordan. But he saw the movie very early.
So when you went to, the first time you're meeting with Ben Affleck, who directs it, I mean, were you wearing Air Jordans?
No, I wasn't. It's kind of like wearing like a band's t-shirt to their concert, like, like you got to play it cool. So no, I wasn't wearing Jordans. Honestly, I may have been wearing my Stan Smith Adidas, which is super antithetical to the movie. But no, look, you come ready to talk the script and the story and potential rewrites and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned, you're thinking of the dream cast. I mean, I'm sure you couldn't have envisioned a better cast than, what came out with, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Viola Davis. But I'm curious if you're able to share, when you were writing it, were there actors in mind that you had for specific pieces and who they might have been?
No, I try not to write with that attitude, simply because you're just going to get your heart broken like 99 times out of 100. This would have been the one time where if I had actually pictured the dream cast, we actually got it. But no, look, especially on true stories, you almost don't need to picture the cast, right? Because they're real people. So, I was picturing Sonny Vaccaro and Phil Knight and Rob Strasser and Dolores Jordan when I was writing it. There's different scenarios, right? Like, if you're writing a script knowing that you're going to direct it, or it's something smaller that's like super contingent on cast, like, or maybe you're writing something for an actor, that kind of changes the arithmetic of how you're working on the script. But this one was, pretty nuts and bolts, moment in time, true story. So it wasn't. I didn't need to picture the cast, and I certainly never would have, even in my wildest dreams, never would have cast Matt, Ben, Viola, Jathan, both Chris's, and on and on.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about the sports movie genre is that it can kind of disguise many other genres. You think about
Yes.
like 80 for Brady just came out, and that's a very
Yep.
like it's a a lighthearted throwback comedy. This one
Yep.
is very different, kind of
Yep.
like shades of Moneyball maybe.
Yep.
I, I'm just curious, and another thing that, I spoke with Mark Ellis from Rotten Tomatoes recently about how sports movies might be thriving right now too, because, in our environment, it can be very fractured, whether it's politically, technologically, and
Yep.
sports movies tend to appeal to every kind of audience member. Do you see that? And did you kind of feel that when you were writing this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a big sports fan that typically doesn't like sports movies for whatever reason. Probably just because I love the actual,
Yeah.
on court, on field, whatever sport we're referring to. I love it so much that often, watching a recreation is tough. So, the best sports movies aren't much different than the best movies writ large, which all comes down to having great characters. So that's always paramount for me when I'm looking at writing something. This one is obviously sports adjacent. There's like one quick scene of basketball in it, so it's yes, it is a movie about sports, but is it a sports movie? I don't know. That's probably up for debate. But no, look, I think you're onto something with the way sports can unite people. And it's, look, it's been common ground, I was going to say in the country, but really around the world for, centuries. There's a reason where people are still so passionate about it, and the reason we still sign up for a season knowing we're going to get our heart broken, 99% of the time. There's just something, sports are a great, expression for human emotion. You go through everything. I mean, it's baseball opening day, so that's what's on my mind. But it's even in a baseball season, the best teams lose 60 games out of the season. It's sports breaks your heart, makes you fall in love, gets you excited, gets you sad. It's it's a tableau for the human experience, really, which is why I think they're so resonant.
Yeah, I think that's what the best movies do as well.
Totally.
Your story, this movie, it's a true story. It's set decades
Yep.
ago. I'm wondering what you think it can teach us about the sports landscape or the power of the sports platform, which we see with
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. What that can teach us about that today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so much the goal of the movie was, I mean, there were many goals, but one of them was just to kind of illuminate, you know, how game changing the equity portion of the deal was, and how much it kind of started this wave of, I mean, it's what people say in NBA now, right? Player empowerment. We're going through it in college sports with NIL. It really started with that deal, a shoe had never been, so personified by a player themselves. And like, look, at the end of the day, we don't watch sports just for the teams, right? Otherwise, you're just rooting for laundry. As I think Seinfeld was the one who said that first. But you do it for people, right? I mean, sports at their best is kind of looking at it and saying like, wow, it's amazing what humans can do,
Yeah.
and it's the people in the uniform, not the uniform themselves, that creates value. And I think we're finally at a place really across all of sports where we're recognizing this. I mean, gosh, just yesterday, the MLB finally announces a collective bargaining agreement for the minor leagues. So like we're even at that point. I look, there's still a long way to go, but I hope that what people can really take away from air is this idea of knowing your worth and not being afraid to ask for it.
I feel like the path has been paved here with this movie and your partnership with Ben Affleck for like a Tom Brady biopic. I know we got the 80 for Brady, but I
Yeah.
mean, is there a next step for you that involves, I know you said sports adjacent. I feel like that's a great term for it, but I mean, were there any, because I know Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they've talked about being Patriots fans. I mean, have there been any
Yeah.
conversations about that or any big dreams for you in related to this genre?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to character, Like that's always what I look at first and foremost when I'm taking on a project. And there are obviously great characters in sports, like we're talking about. There's great characters in all genres. So I'd be happy to write sports or sports adjacent movies forever, but there's a lot of other stuff I want to explore too. And in terms of the Tom Brady biopic itself, that's not a conversation I've had. Brady has his own production company, Religion of Sports, so I'm sure if he wanted that movie to happen, I think there's certainly a path for him to do it.
Sure. Fresh off of Air and the success that it's having and will have, if you were to kind of make your pitch for what could be next in this lane, what would it be?
Yeah, I'm writing another sports movie now, which I can't totally talk about. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's another basketball movie that I've been trying to do for a long time. So hopefully you'll be reading about it sooner rather than later. But no, look, again, like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's all about character, right? The best sports movies can never be about the final score, otherwise you just go watch a game. You're never going to capture that on camera the same way. So it's just finding those human stories within within the games themselves, and stories that can speak to everyone and can be broad but not stupid. So it's like it's a fine line, and it's one of those, like, when you see it, it. But yeah, I think we're moving away from the like traditional biopic fully, which is nice, because I like kind of telling these stories behind the stories. And yeah, there's a lot of investment in scripted sports content now, which is really exciting to see. I think the unscripted content is larger than ever, and I think that's driving the scripted content as well, which, as someone who enjoys writing movies like this, it's an exciting time for sure.
Yeah, and it's almost fitting that you mentioned that this player empowerment movement probably doesn't happen without this Michael Jordan story, which is being told in your movie. It's kind of fitting that you mentioned Tom Brady has his own production company right now.
Yeah.
We talk about LeBron James, who is very much, I guess, a similar. He's branded his persona.
Yep.
But those athletes now have almost control of telling their own stories too, which is fitting.
Last That's how it should be, It's I'm glad we've gone to a place like that. It's where we should be.
Yeah, and I guess maybe jumping into just going back to Air and your time, making that story, seeing it come to life. Your interactions with Ben, with Matt, with the cast members. Maybe it's on set. I'm wondering if there's a favorite interaction that you have from the time that this movie started to be made and brought to the big screen.
I mean, there's like, every day had its own, little memory. I mean, it's just such a dream to work with. I mean, Matt and Ben, obviously, but the rest of the cast as well. I mean, to me, as a sports fan, the funniest part of the production is the NBA finals were going on while we were shooting. And Ben and Matt are obviously huge Celtics fans. And one of the producers on the movie is Peter Guber, who owns the Warriors. So there was a little like back and forth, every day, that those 2 weeks of the finals that was just hilarious to watch unfold. Peter won this round, but I think both teams will be very good for a long time to come. So we'll see what happens.
Was there a Michael Jordan of the cast? I mean, I know Ben Affleck is the director and everything, but I mean, it was someone out, like, was Matt Damon who outperformed the other in that partnership there?
Well, look, I mean, everyone was great. Matt obviously has the bigger role and had more work to do on it. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, Viola, as Dolores is kind of like the gravitational pull of the movie and ultimately the heart of the movie, and like in a lot of ways the protagonist of the film. So I'll always remember just being able to watch her inhabit that role and just go to work. I mean, she is next level in the movie.
I really do appreciate, your perspective too, because I think that, everyone sees Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and obviously that's an important draw to see, have the story be seen. But it starts with a good story, and like you said over and over, character. And I think that it's fun to see a movie prioritize that.
Yeah, and
So
I mean, look, Matt and Ben are they broke into Hollywood as writers, so
yeah,
they very much, yes, they're A-list, fantastic, Mount Rushmore actors, but they are, they are writers at heart. So it was really so often in Hollywood, it's the screenwriter that gets the short end of the stick, and in a lot of ways, it's like once you sell a script, it's not yours anymore, and they can tell you, we don't need you anymore. So it was just really cool that they took the opposite approach and were just super welcoming and collaborative, and the entire set was just like it was just yeah it was a very joyful experience for everyone. So yeah, fingers crossed we can do it again.
awesome. Well, you said they started as writers. That what you're telling me is you're going to be starring in a movie not too long
Certainly not. Maybe maybe behind the camera directing eventually, but
now.
no, it'll be I the day that I'm in front of the camera, something has gone terribly wrong.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, thanks so much, Alex, for taking the time, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the process, and people go and enjoy this movie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Cody. It's great meeting you, man.